everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile for Women, an initiative to raise the floor for the women in Lean and Agile spaces, to bring the stories from the women in our community, and to form the scaffolding that we all need, very much need in these chaotic times. As part of this initiative, LIA100 is a program that we have launched in 2019 to bring the stories and triumphs and challenges from 100 women across the globe, and for all of us to get inspired, learn from their challenges, learn from their successes, so all of us can become stronger together. So today's guest is Heidi Araya, and I'm so glad to invite Heidi. She has a very rich and a great learning background that she would like to share with us. And I'll share a brief bio about Heidi before we dive completely into her story. So Heidi's expertise includes Lean Agile Portfolio Management, Agile Coaching, Agile Transformations, Agile HR, and business operations. Heidi was the director of Agile Transformation at Tenable and previously led the Agile Transformation at Cofense. As a product owner for a government contractor, she led the first Scrum teams to deliver a successful product at NASA Kennedy Space Center in 2010. She's the co-founder and advisory board member of the Open Leadership Network. She co-hosts a popular virtual meetup series for Agilists called Coaching Agile Journeys. Her forthcoming book is Team Coaching with Open Patterns. I love that title. Her articles were included in a book, Best Agile Articles of 2018. And now for the more fun side of Heidi. Heidi lives in Orlando, the beautiful Orlando, and she's a confirmed serial hobbyist, definitely, because she has dabbled in drawing, ballroom dancing. I believe it is called jiu-jitsu. We want to ask her what that is. At least I don't know what it is. She does tennis, reiki. I'm very passionate about reiki myself. And the hobbies, she's probably forgotten that she doesn't even remember. So that definitely calls for a serial hobbyist. Welcome to the channel, Heidi. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm just really excited to share and chat with you more about this.
Absolutely. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about the jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is like a martial arts. It's like a fighting sport, so like kickboxing or any other martial arts. So I did that for a while. I like to try new things, and that was one of the things that I tried. I was probably much better at ballroom dancing than I was at jiu-jitsu.
Ah, okay. So I learned something new, definitely. So you are a martial arts fighter, you're a ballroom dancer. I'm a dancer myself, Indian classical dancer. So, I both have different body language. So I can appreciate, the talent that you might bring to both of them. Awesome. Awesome. That is truly awesome. All right. So let's begin by learning a little bit about what brought you to the Agile space. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the companies that I had been working with, even back as far as 1999, were doing some agile stuff. But the depth of my journey really started when I was hired on at NASA Kennedy Space Center to lead the first agile teams and rescue I want to say a product that didn't go so well. Someone spent a year writing vaporware, then turned it over, and they discovered that they couldn't use any of the products. So they brought me on to rescue the customer relationship. And meeting with the customer, she basically said, I just want this paper form, front and back. I just want it on the intranet. So instead of this travel request form on a paper, I just want it on the intranet. And I thought, it took someone a year. This is going to be like a couple of sprints. So we worked with her to gain her trust and told her we'll be doing Scrum and we'll be showing you everything that we do, and it will be up on a site that you can go check and test. And so we did that. And about the second sprint, she said, the person's filling out their name. Why can't we just pull it from the Exchange server? And I was like, yeah, we can do that. So we did that. And then the next we get back together, it's kind of this iterative model of showing her what we've done so far and asking her what's important and where she wants to go next. And she goes, I'm just curious because someone can change this form. Anyone can change it. I want an audit history. Then she remembered, well, if it's over 30 days of travel or it's international or it's a VIP, it goes to some other, person. And so make a really long story short, after more than a year and a half of developing this product, she got exactly what she needed, not what she had originally asked for. It was a comprehensive business travel routing application with complex business logic. And that was my real aha moment where I thought, if we gave her what she wanted, it would have maybe last 6 months and she would have been looking for another travel application. But this one was in production for, I think, over 8 years before they finally retired it, and it had almost 0 defects. And so I was lucky enough to be the product owner on that with that team. And it was just such a valuable moment for me. It was kind of sparking this whole agile movement. And then I got a call to work at a small startup, and we grew from 30 to 220. And so I was the person who knew about agile, and so they wanted me to work over there. And so that kind of started my agile journey, and I want to say in earnest.
No, that is amazing, right? And all of us, I think, have humble beginnings in Agile. When it first started, it was challenging to impress upon that this works. I think we were figuring it out ourselves and also helping the organizations. So, I had a similar story, so completely resonate with that story of yours. So let's talk a little bit about Agile HR, right? You do have a background in, I believe, transforming, in fact, influencing Agile transformations through Agile HR. And, I've done a little bit of research on that in the past. But according to you, what does it take to bring about structural change in the organizations through HR, right? This could be from the lens of hiring for talents and not for the resumes for skills, but hiring for mindsets, trainings, policies, rewards. There could be so much that we could do through HR. Can you share a little bit about that?
You touched on the main points there, of course. And in my work with HR, I think it just starts out with trying to come together and solve a common problem. And the work that I have done with HR really resonated with them as a focus on people over process. Whatever it is, let's focus on people first. And so, like, the main message I would just take back to HR is, where are we focusing on a process over people, and how can we shift that a little bit more people focused? One of the things that I was able to do in a few previous companies was bring this idea of an improvement day or innovation day, and one was once a month and the other one was once a sprint, but it was time for people to work on whatever they felt would make the company a better place to work, whether it was improving their own work or collaborating with someone else, mentoring someone else. And I actually work with HR to get that going. And so when they see the benefits of that initiative, and that became really highly acclaimed initiative, and the HR folks ended up joining, senior executives ended up joining, that kind of starts the next little ball rolling. And the other thing I would say for that real quick is plant seeds. And one of the things that that's been one of my mantras and of like what I've learned over the past few years reporting to senior leaders is plant seeds, and maybe they're not ready right now, but repeating that and keep planting little seeds and they'll begin to sprout. So this idea of teamwork, that became a mantra at a previous workplace, and then HR changed from measuring individual performance to measuring team performance. Those are just like a few tricks that I've used to help at HR understand the shift.
Yeah. I think performance-based metrics, or even rewarding a team versus rewarding individuals, right? Assessing the team versus assessing individuals. I have not come across too many organizations who have done that successfully, but I know that's the business imperative, right? You will be successful when you reward a team, because after all, we are promoting team-based work, not individual-based work. So that's encouraging that you were able to kind of at least tread towards that, right?
Yes. And,
Right.
here's one thing that I'm an engineering manager that I work closely with and who really believed in this. She actually, all the performance reviews for her team, she submitted the same improvement statements for. So she met with them all together and she just said, this applies here, whether it was be proactive or learn more. And she just said, this applies to the whole team. This applies to you and it applies to the whole team. So she actually submitted the individual performance reviews in that way where she just duplicated everything for the team. So it was a little start, right, for
Yeah,
those kind of things.
yeah, yeah. No,
Even a little initiative can make a big difference.
it does. It does. So these are the incremental steps, right? An organization can take. They don't have to change the entire culture or the strategy of the organization. They can start somewhere. They can start small and see the results of it, and the results are often positive. But as I said, I'm yet to come across organizations who have done it successfully across the enterprise. So, um, and in your background, there's mention about Open Leadership Network, right? So tell us a little bit um, about Open Leadership Network and why it matters.
So Open Leadership Network is basically starts with invitation-based transformation. So business agility starting by invitation, not imposition. So many Agile transformation are just imposed. That leaves staff disengaged. A lot of times the um, team formation and the processes and structures that are created, actually people don't know what they're doing and teams are left unable to do their best work instead of empowering people to do their best work. So open leadership basically starts with invitation, and there are 8 patterns, and you can check it out at openleadershipnetwork.com/patterns. So there are 8 different patterns that you can use. And just as an example, one of them is whole group process. So why is whole group process important? We talk about a common knowledge and whole group process, and the idea of explicit agreement before we move forward. So a lot of these things, and what I really like about the open leadership patterns are they're consumable. And even for HR, when I talk to HR leaders and I say, let's talk about making explicit agreements. Let's talk about decision rights as an explicit, boundary of what we're talking about. And let's talk about why do we do whole group process in a complex environment and how to make that happen. It seems like very consumable bits for them. And so I've had success just introducing a pattern of like, hey, let's use make meetings optional, or let's how can we send out a survey to get everybody's input. That could be a form of a whole group process. So like we were talking about before, just little
Yeah,
steps, and the patterns are pretty pragmatic for that. So yeah, if whoever wants to go check them out, they can just check out the website and start using them. And Kristen Hernandez and I have some training around the open patterns as well for coaches, and she and I are collaborating on the book, and that's what the book is going to be about too.
that is awesome. And yes, definitely, I'm going to check it out myself. But thanks for sharing that resource, because that is I think, a very relevant concept and a theme that anybody can use, right? You could be a leader in the organization, or you're a leader in your own right, for whatever task or work you're doing in the organization. That's awesome. So let's switch gears to something which is very close to my heart. So you've been a speaker, right? You're a speaker, you speak at different conferences, and I know you have a history of public speaking. And through our spirals, we have always learned that there is some women who are very vocal, have no fear of public speaking, and they figured it out. But some women are very apprehensive of public speaking, going and presenting in conferences, or even think about sharing their insights, their perspectives, and their stories in the conferences, right? And when we kind of dig a little bit deeper, it's because of a barrier they've built for themselves, right? And of course, there is a structural barrier out there that, there's probably just more men already recruited and subscribed to particular, space in the conference or anywhere. And then that intimidates these women already. But, we have seen often that they do have that internal barrier. They have fear, they're apprehensive, they're not confident their voice can be heard. Tell us a little bit about how did you get started? And did you have those barriers? If yes, how did you overcome?
Thank you for asking this question. I'm a real introvert. I don't go out if I don't have to. I don't like parties. I'm a like, one-on-one or very small group conversation. Um, but what got me started is I actually got an email in my inbox saying, here's this conference coming up, and if you have something to say, we're accepting submissions. And I just thought, I have something to say. Oh, and by the way, if I do that, I can actually get in free to this conference. So I thought, and it was just a very simplest topic. It was, I felt that people were abusing team and trying to make scrum teams where maybe a Kanban team or Scrumban team would make more sense. So my very first talk in a big conference was Scrum, Kanban, or Scrumban. So anyway, it took maybe 30 seconds. Literally, I clicked on this thing. I didn't think anybody would accept it. And it was April and the conference was November. And I'm like, oh, it would be months. So I type up a few things, I send it, and 5 minutes later, I get a phone call. Tell me more about your submission. It sounds really interesting.
Nice.
So, and then it was accepted. And I just thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now to get up in front of people? I don't know. I didn't really have experience with that. And, public in a company is one thing, but like out with these folks. So I thought, I have all summer. So we actually went to Europe, and we took a train ride, and I was storyboarding the thing, and I was thinking, and actually, I was too afraid to show anybody my work because I thought that they would criticize it. And so that's one thing I would definitely do differently. But I worked on it very, very hard. I practiced in front of my cats, and I had it on the TV, and I got a clicker. And I just have to tell you, I had a script, and I read it over and over again. I listened to it when I was out walking, and I know this is a very long story, so I'll try to cut it short. So I did it, a demo meetup for the local meetup group where I was at the time. And I thought only maybe 10 people were going to show up. Well, over 150 folks signed up for that. And I showed up that day, had never worn a mic, lavalier mic before, never been in such a huge room, and I was nervous for about 30 seconds, but what saved me is I had practiced so much that I knew the talk inside out. And by the time I delivered it, and then, I got kudos, an Agile consulting firm filtered down afterwards, and they were like, hey, this was your interview. You didn't know it, but you're hired if you want the job. We use somebody like you. And I was like, phew. The message that I wanted to share overcame any anxiety that I had. Yes, I was extremely anxious. And was I really good that first time? No, I wasn't, but I just didn't let it stop me. And I just got better and better at it. And, hopefully this time I'm better, much better than I was. And I began getting feedback on my, early talks and the slides that I was trying to create and the message that I was sending. So I've learned to be agile about my conference talks and my workshops and everything I do too.
That's fantastic. And thanks for sharing those tips, right? First of all, of course, we practiced, right? Get your content well, get your concept well with practice, but also try it out with a smaller crowd, because you just get that first pilot out, where you're lacking, where you're best. But I think those kudos that you received were very validating, reassuring, right? I must have done something right. So, now it takes you to the next step. So it was truly, I think, incremental and agile in the truest sense. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So further to speaking, you have an upcoming book, right? Which is Coaching Teams with Open Networks. Is that the
Coaching with Open Patterns?
Open Patterns. So tell us a little bit about that. How did that book happen? And again, right, many of us have writer's block. It's hard to put our thoughts on the piece of paper and make it into a book. It's a grand plan. It's not easy by any means. It's probably public speaking multiplied by 1,000.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about how you made this happen.
Great question. So I was trying to solve a problem. I was working in an organization that had lots of agile teams, 40 agile teams, and I had just a few coaches. And I was, directing the whole thing. I was director of Agile Transformation, and the teams had no scrum masters. They had no trained scrum masters. The teams were just confused about why they're doing this. There were like the very basics were missing. And I thought, well, how can I get these teams off to the right foot without being with them along the journey? And they weren't high business priority teams. So I started thinking about this foundations, like team foundations. How do we help them along their teaming journey? Because you have to understand your team before you can understand, to grow past this. So where are we in our teaming journey? And then Daniel Mezek, who's the leader of the Open Leadership Network, contacted me and he started talking to me. We came up, he talked to me about the patterns. It turned out that I believe the patterns were very important. And I thought, well, gosh, I have to stop this, stop what I'm doing and incorporate the patterns into the book that I'm doing. So that I have to say, I think I was like 30,000 words in when I realized I have to stop this and break it into a couple bits of book and retweak it. So what I've learned along this book journey, because it's not done. And along the way, I brought in Kristen Hernandez, and she and I worked together for 4 years ago now. And she and I are just following each other's journey. And she's the one I told you about. We seem to be kind of stepping in our same footsteps. And I thought there's no one that would be better than to bring in, Kristen, because she makes everything 1,000 times better. So she and I work on it together, and we talk about, what are we going to put in it? We iterate. We did a workshop on the topic, and we have training. And then we thought, well, this is going to inform the book. So we've learned a lot from the training that we've done. And so I would say just start with an MVP. For us, the MVP was do a little bit of training and inspect and adapt after that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think, I really wish, many of us try that, right? Do the MVPs and partner if you want, but really, your book should be addressing a particular problem or a particular challenge, or it's a solution to something. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's really valuable. All right. So, I always bring a lens of gender into my conversations, because Lean and Agile is firmly rooted in women inclusion. And in your experience, Heidi, you've been part of the conferences, you've been part of the community, and you've worked extensively with the organizations. Um, what have you seen in terms of challenges with women inclusion, right? In some places, it needs to be intentional. Some places are naturally inclusive, but some places, they have to be intentional about it. What have you seen in your experience? Were women always invited organically, or was it a struggle? Well, these are some of the uncomfortable conversations that we must have.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially nowadays, I feel. And I do want to say we're talking about women specifically, but one of the people and one of the coaches who shaped my career really is a Black Muslim from inner city LA. And walking alongside of him for an engagement for 6 months really changed the way I think about what being an agile coach could be. When I think about his struggle and my struggle, I provide, a little bit of comparison to myself. But so I've come from 2 cybersecurity companies where women are even in less numbers, so fewer numbers to be found than the general tech. I feel overall, I've seen a few interesting things. So one of the conferences, they flew me there, and I'm up there at the speaker center, and people were like, to the organizers, well, how did you find her? And the guy says, we needed a lady. And we Googled and we found someone that we found someone that we liked what she had to say, and we just invited her up. And I was like, whoa, you don't know how much that hurt. To hear that. But so kudos to them because the guy actually said, last year we got criticized for not having any women, and so we needed a lady this year. And I was like, okay, so is it good?
Token invitation, right? Yeah.
So, but so yeah, it's there. I think most of the powerful voices are still white men. I feel like because I've been leading transformation from the inside, that I feel I have to work extra hard to get credibility and voice in a room of executives. And I have had, especially because we come with this opinion that's radically different from a lot of the upper leadership. So here I am, I'm the only person thinking that people are important or bringing this opinion, let's say teamwork or, you know, whole group process or whatever the idea might be that they see as really strange. And I'm the only woman in the room, which is often the case. And so I actually feel like I've had to work to grow my voice and my, which I've done really hard to speak up no matter how unsafe I might feel or how unfriendly the room is. So I've worked to do that. And when I did my core values, bravery was one of them. Credibility, Padmini, it was about credibility. How can I, because I'm a woman and the message that we're bringing is inherently something that they probably won't trust, how can I make sure that my voice is a credible one and a pragmatic one for them? And so I've focused even more on that. You know, in today's environment, I have to say, it's think about, if I think about my struggle and the very worst experience of my career, where someone threatened me basically to, you know, and he said, you'd never find another job in this city again. And I just thought, well, who are you? But imagine if that was my everyday experience, right? And so for, you know, my next mission is like, how do we elevate not only women, but there's a whole other group aside from women, right? This minority voices in general. So I think about that we have such a long way to go for sure.
We do. And then voices like yours, Heidi, right, you know, will resonate with many people out there. And, you know, something that you mentioned is so profound, right? You know, when you read the room, it could be unfriendly, unsafe, and not always conducive, right, for us to share our thoughts, but still go ahead and say it, because if we don't say it, it'll never come out. So we have a long way to go, but I think we've started. So thanks for sharing that story. And it really is very valuable for us. So finally, Heidi, what is your message for our community? Or what is something that really, you know, keeps you going?
Here's what I did. In January, at the end of January, I sat down and I did a core values exercise for myself. And I thought this is going to be some fluffy exercise and I'm not really sure what's going to end up, but I was looking for another opportunity at the moment. And I wasn't sure how to separate all these. So I guess my message is know your core values. And if you don't know what they are, do a core values activity. Doesn't matter what they are, which, you know, there are many out there that you can do. But so just stick to your values, and it helped me land a great position in a company that has my own values. And then the other message I would share, which we've kind of shared along the way, is leverage Agile principles for your own Agile journey. So, you know, for speaking engagements, for workshops, for training, get a little message out there, get feedback, whether it's an article that you're trying to write for the first time or a blog post, make it really small. Maybe it's not even a blog post, maybe it's a LinkedIn post, right, that you just want to put out there and see what resonates. But the core values exercise was really very meaningful for me, and it helped me make sure that my career went in the right direction for me.
Yeah. No, thank you. I mean, this is great, right? You know, core values, and we talk about core values so much, but I think doing it as a personal exercise and from time to time, right? Because it has to align with where you are in the stage of your life is just so profound. Thank you so much, Heidi. This has been an amazing conversation, and thank you for being so candid, open, and your willingness to share everything with the community is just great. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you around so much more and bring your message out. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me.